Okay, this is the Louisville and Nashville Railroad's, Birmingham Mineral Railroad's spur line of their South Branch, which went along the south side of Red Mountain. And this right here is the spur line. It branched off ways back behind me from the main line of the South Branch, and the spur line was built specifically to go to the Red Ore Mines that at that time were on the south side of Red Mountain. So this line was opened around 1886, and it branched off in three different locations. It branched off at what is today Ishkooda 13, 14, and 15. But back in 1886 up to around 1905, 1906, they were the McElwain Mines, Eureka Mines, Eureka East 2, Eureka number 1, and Eureka number 2. So we're going to be going up to the Eureka number 2, which is the currently what is today Ishkooda number 13, the slope mine, and just doing a walk of the surface sections of the mine site, the old foundations, and just doing a little exploratory hike of what remains of Ishkooda 13. Okay, this is looking back to the southwest along the spur line of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. And this right here, these two high berms right here, this is where a wooden trestle went across the Birmingham Mineral Railroad, and this was part of the rail line for a narrow gauge railway that actually went all the way to the Oxmoor Furnace back in the early 1870s, late 1860s, early 1870s, when they rebuilt the furnace after the Civil War because it was destroyed by Union cavalry forces in the later months of the Civil War. But this little railroad went all the way up to this, into one of the deep ravines on the south flank of south side of Red Mountain. So probably a lot of people don't realize this is a former site of a wooden trestle for the narrow gauge railway that served the Oxmoor Furnace in the years after the Civil War. So we'll keep heading up behind me up there to the number 13 mine. Okay, this is the first spur line off of the main spur line of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. And this big rail bed cut right here, which is a trail today, Red Mountain Park, goes directly to the number 13 mine. But this is where the locomotives came in and took the ore out in rail cars. I believe they had to back the locomotives down this spur line. So, but anyway, this is part of the Red Mountain Park walking trail system. So we're going to move on through the cut and head up to where the mine portal is. Okay, this is looking directly northwest on the south side of the mountain, going up. And this is part of the walking trail here, but the rail bed actually went, you can see the cut right there, actually went through right here. And back in the 1880s, 1890s, they had a tremendously long wooden tipple that went all the way up the south side of the mountain. They had a cable hoist, and they had drift mines, and they were just starting on a slope mine. And the loaded mine cars would be lowered down on the huge wooden trestle and be offloaded onto the waiting rail cars of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. And there's no evidence of any of this left, but you know, they had the boiler houses back here, the steam plants. So it's hard to imagine what this used to look like, 140 something years ago. So, but anyway, this is there's a picture, probably try to include it, of the big trestle or the tipple going all the way up the mountain. So, all right, we're gonna continue on, keep continuing on up to the mine portal. Okay, this is where the loading tipple would have been, the loading dock, right here, right along this side right here, and the rail cars would have been right in here. And that flat area right there, that was part of the short line narrow gauge railroad that ran 2.5 miles south to the Oxmoor Furnace right there. So you can just see the remains of the rail bed right there. And we'll circle back towards the end of the video of direction of the rail bed of the railroad going to the Oxmoor Furnace. But anyway, the rail cars would stack up in here, and you had your huge loading tipple right here. Okay, this right here is the site of the Ishkooda number 13 Red Ore Slope Mine. And you can see the dates, 1873, 1933. That doesn't mean that's the years that it operated till. It was opened in 1873 as the Eureka number 2 slope mine. And in 1933 is when they rehabilitated it. That's when they put the concrete portal on, steel I-beams down the slope. And this mine operated intermittently, pretty much about 80% of the time during its years of service. And it operated up into about 1959, 1960, before TCI, Tennessee Coal Iron and Railroad Company, started closing all the mines on Red Mountain. But it's a deep slope mine, runs to the south, southeast. Maximum depth was about 1,800 feet, I believe, 1,900 feet surface depth. And it was connected with all the other mines that TCI operated along the mountain. But that right there used to be a man and materials way. And when they started converting the manways to lay water pipes, because they were always pumping water out of the mine, the pipes actually came out of that location, came across the top of the portal, and ran all the way up the mountain. And TCI had a big central water reservoir system, so all the water coming out of the mines was pumped all the way down to Winona. Some of the water was transferred to the mining camps for use because it was filtered, but even without the filtering, because of all the limestone, the water's like 98, 99% pure. So you can go down about 900, 1,000 feet, and all the mines are flooded. That's how much water is underneath the valley here. So they were always having to pump water out. Some of the mines averaged 2 million gallons a day that they were pumping water out of these mines to keep them from flooding when they were in operation. But that right there is one of the original Eureka mines. They've got everything gated off here. So there were drift mines going all the way up the mountain. And before they cut in all this, the slope mine was about right here till they started cutting everything out. There was actually right over here in this location, there was another what's called a man and materials way. So they had 2 man and material ways, or manways, on either side of the slope for the miners to transit down the mine without being on the slope, also to where they would take mules and horses. So, but around 1905 to between 1905 and 1910, the Louisville and Nashville railroads, Birmingham Mineral Railroad Division, had developed an entire north branch line for the railroad, for the mining companies, because as this mining went deeper, they needed bigger facilities, larger cable hoist. So they moved everything to the north side of the mountain, And during that time, they created this big haulage way cut. And that's a really steep angle up there. So, heading all the way to the top of the mountain. So, mine cars would come down through here about 40 miles an hour and go straight down into the slope, man. Wonder how many miners lost their breakfast, man. Because when you get further down, it just boom drops. So, but anyway, this is the most visited mine in the park at Red Mountain because it's the closest. So they did a really good job of reopening this for visitors, tourists, to get people, so people could see what the slope might look like, and you can go down and take a look inside. But we'll do that, take a look inside for a minute. And then we're going to make our way up the haulage way cut to some of the foundation remains and where some of the surface facilities were. So, okay, so like I said, in 1933 is when they started rehabilitating the mines, modernizing them, electric lighting, steel I-beam supports, you name it. Later on in the late 40s, early 50s, TCI had kind of pioneered the use of roof bolting. So all their mines that were in service had roof bolts, roof supports for stability. But anyway, the concrete lining goes down for about 75 feet, 75 to 100 feet, and then you've got the slope, which has wooden timber supports and a lot of I-beam supports. But and further down, way further down, underneath the water, there was an interior tunnel that went underneath the fault line of where the ore seam dropped down about 200 feet. So they had to build an interior tunnel way down there. But all these mines were interconnected, and about almost a mile from here, where we're at, is where the underground loading station was for the ore. Man, it's kind of hard to imagine, almost a mile from where we're at. It's where the ore pocket was, to where the skip car was lowered down, and they dumped the ore that was extracted from the mining into the skip car, which is a 12-ton skip car, and it was hauled up out of here at 40 miles an hour. So, but anyway, it's great they got this open for people to be able to see it. So, a lot of history. One little item of interest is the remains of that still standing, that power line pole, that steel girder power line pole. That is specifically for the number 13 mine. Way back behind it, just on top of the mountain, back in the woods, is a transformer station, a relay station, if you want to say. That was just for the number 13 mine here. And these mines used a lot of electricity, pulled a lot. And that transformer station up there pulled in and put out 44,000 volts of electricity just to power all of the facilities up here at the number 13 mine. So, I mean, I wouldn't like to have been the person to have to install that on this steep down angle, but it's still standing. There's plenty of them that are along the mountain that you'll see hiking around that are still standing up here in the woods. So, we're going to be making our way up through the haulage way cut here. Up to the rail bridge that crosses over the cut, and head up to the top. Okay, that's look back down, looking into the slope of the entrance to the number 13 slope mine, or back in 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, it was called Eureka number 2. So this right here is one of the original stone foundations to the old Eureka mine when it was in operation. Not sure, but still has the bolts right there. But anyway, This is where the buildings in that photo from the 1880s, around 1890, I believe it was. This is where these buildings sat. And the wooden tipple, the original wooden tipple, went all the way down this way, just like a ski jump. And all down up in here, there were drift mines. And of course, when they made this cut, you know, all that stuff just got sealed up. But this right here is what they cut out, and this is where the skip cars and also the miners riding the man trips, they would descend into the mine. You know, 40 miles an hour. Whew. Yeah, I'd probably lose my breakfast. So, but it's neat that this is still preserved right here. So, there's a photograph, I'll try to include it, that was taken in 1910, just after they moved all the facilities to the north side. And the original covering of the slope mine was wooden. So they still had the tracks coming in on the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. So you see the concrete there, it was actually a wooden framed mine entrance, portal entrance. As the British used to say, or still say today, a pit mouth. So I'll see if I can include that with an overlay. But we'll continue on up there towards the bridge. Okay, this is a look back down to the mine entrance, the slope mine entrance from the haulageway cut. And these guide-ons right here, they were electrical wires that the miners, there'd be a guy in there with a pole. And if they needed to stop the man trip or anything, they would just have a bell hoist signal system, and he would tap on these lines, signal the hoist house in case there was an emergency or something. And they would, the guy would, the hoist operator would slow or stop the man car, depending on which bell signal he used to send to the hoist house. So you still see these are still standing. Some of the wires right here on them. But man, that's one steep drop, just looking at it from up here. So. Okay, this is the trestle bridge that went over the number 13 mine skip car haulageway cut. The original bridge was built around 1910. Like I said, when everything was being moved over to the north side. And it was a wooden bridge. And so in the 30s, when they were rehabilitating everything, they took all the wood down and has steel I-beams for the bridge with concrete supports on either side. But this is where they had a small rail line running from the 14 mine all the way to the shops over here. They had repair shops right up here on just near the top of the mountain. So they would take mine cars or other things that needed to be repaired. They'd bring them up out of the 14 mine, and they'd switch off to the little rail line right here that would run all the way from the 14 mine, cross over here into the repair shop. And this foundation right here, the stone foundation, this is part of the original foundation for the wooden bridge that went over this cut right here. So that's part of the walking trail they have now. So let's look back down the haulageway cut for the 13 mine. Okay, that's a look at the minecart trestle bridge right there. And in 1940, they had a very rare, but in 1940, there was an underground explosion. Took place down inside the number 13 mine. I think it was the mishandling of some dynamite. There was an explosion, and I think it killed 3 or 4 miners. It's actually a photograph of people standing all around here on this bridge, waiting for rescuers to bring up the bodies that they would bring up on the skip cars or some of the other rail cars for the mines. So there's a picture, famous picture of everybody standing right around on this bridge waiting for news to see if any of their relatives made it, or who was killed and or injured. Okay, you've got your little trestle bridge right here, minecart railroad, and the little rail line ran all the way around past some support buildings, and it went all the way to the 14 mine. And they had a switch off coming up out of the slope. So, like I said, anything that needed to be repaired, they'd send it over here. I think they had a little dinky locomotive to pull the mine cars and other equipment. And this is, he said, this is all in Red Mountain Parks. This is kind of a recreation area with picnic tables. But these foundations right here, this is where the machine shop and the blacksmith shops were right here. So they have picnic tables and everything. So you got the foundations right here. So it's a big facility. And way back in that cut back there is where the powder house was. I have been told that there is the powder house, a section of it is underground, and they just covered it up. So, but it's pretty dense thicket back there. So back in there, they kept the powder house kind of away from everything. So if it blew, it's in a good location because it's in that cut right there. We're back in the 1870s, 1880s. That's where they did the open ore mining. So you see cuts all on the top of the mountain. But that right there is the remains of the machine shop and the blacksmith shop. Okay, so this is a look on top of the mountain, looking to the northwest. Right here, down below is the haulage way cut for the number 13 slope mine where the skip cars went. This foundation right here is the foundation. There's a little basement down below, but this is the foundation for the tally house. This is where the tally house operator would record the tonnage of the ore coming out. They had a weight scale here, so all the ore that was coming up minus the weight of the skip car would be weighed and then sent up to the tipple by the cable hoist, then dumped down through a chute system into the Allison Chalmers, I believe it was, Gates Gyratory, I think it was number 7 and number 8 ore crusher, and then the waiting rail cars of what used to be the Birmingham Mineral Railroad, and then it was later TCI's Highline Railroad. But there was also a platform here. The miners would come up this road from the bathhouse down below in the woods, which there's nothing left of. They would walk up here and they would get on this platform and take the man trip car. When they started using those, sometimes they just jumped in the 12-ton skip car, but they would load right here and offload when they came back out of the mine. Remains of this water pipe. It's an 8-inch water pipe. This is part of the water line that came up from the mines. On the other side over there were two 50,000-gallon water tanks. And this 8-inch pipe right here would come across this cut, and it would go straight down the mountain. It would go into the Ishkooda mining camps, and this is what they used for potable water. Everything was filtered. So, like I said, they make great use of the water being pumped out of these mines. So, like I said, it's the water in those mines is cleaner than some of the water in some of the cities in America right now. So, but anyway, there's a lot of pictures of these mines from this angle. But like I said, it's hard to see even in the wintertime with all the overgrowth. But like I said, just down there is the haulage way cut. And just beyond that tree is the beginning of the huge wooden tipple that they had here at the number 13 mine. Okay, this trail right here is a road. This leads to the top, to where the tally house was, and the beginning of the wooden tipple with the loading platform. This is where the miners walked up. And these foundations right here, these are alongside the rail bed here. These were foundations to supply houses that they had. Back behind, they had carpenter shops. Back in that direction was the bathhouse for the miners for the number 13 and 14 mines. So this rail bed right here was originally developed by the Birmingham Mineral Railroad between 1908, 1910, and 1917. TCI purchased this entire branch line on the north side of Red Mountain for their own short line industrial railroad, which they turned into the High Line, which ran all the way to the Fairfield and the Inslee Works. So, but these foundations are all foundations to supply buildings for the number 13 mine and also for the number 14 mine. So they offloaded lumber here for the timber supports down in the mines. Everything they needed, rails, I mean, you name it, anything needed for mining was offloaded right here. So this is the rail bed looking back to the southwest. And this rail bed heads to the 13 mine tipple and the 14 mine tipple. So that's where we're going to go ahead and go. Okay, this is looking towards the number 13, and way further away is the number 14 mine. So down in this area right here was where they had the bathhouse for the number 13 and 14 mine for the miners. And I think it was in the 50s, sometime in the 50s, TCI built a separate bathhouse for the 14 mine near up on top of the mountain. So it cut down on the travel time for the miners. So back over here in this direction, I believe there's a rail bar or yellow bar system up here. This is where the coal dock was. All the mines, until they were converted over to electricity, they had to use coal and water converted to steam to generate electricity to run these big hoist houses. These were monster cable hoists. So the little rail line to the coal dock ran off about in this location right up here. Okay, these steps right here, TCI painted everything for safety, railings and everything in yellow. And you can still see the yellow still stands. These steps right here, I was off just a little bit. These are the steps that went down to the bathhouse. That was right here. Hardly even any foundation remains. It's a shame all this stuff's built up. I remember when you could just walk down these stairs. But anyway, this is why these steps are here. Or it was for the bathhouse for the miners. Right up here was the where the coal dock was. I'm not sure how many times a week or whatever TCI had to haul coal up here for for the to power the cable hoist house, and they had a separate boiler plant attached to the cable hoist house. But the number 13 mine was, for whatever reason, it was the last mine on Red Mountain. I believe it was even in the 40s. They were still using coal to generate the the steam and the water for the electricity when they finally converted it over. But it's kind of hard to spot even in the wintertime, so be impossible in the summer. But that's looking towards the number 13 mine right there, at least where the tipple was and the ore crusher. Okay, so this right here is where your rail line branched off of this, heading for the coal docks. You still see they got cross tie remains there. You can still see some of the foundation remains down here. So, yeah, that's one of the old cross ties right there. But anyway, the remains of the coal bins are still down in there. There's only, I'm not going to worry about going down there. There's only like the concrete foundation to the cable hoist houses left. And you can just see, look at this, just privet hell. So walk down here a little further. Okay, up ahead is the ore crusher foundation to the number 13 mine, where the big wooden loading tipple was. And it's really hard to see, but right down in there are the remains of the coal bins. So you had a rail line coming across here with the coal cars. They had drop bottom cars. They would just come over, and then the ore would just be dropped right into these bins. And man, these guys just shoveled it. So the boiler house was all right here. The cable hoist house was just up ahead right here. But man, it's a lot of privet. It's been a long time since I was up here. Boy, this looks infinitely worse. So, but at least they got this trail. When I came up here, they didn't even have this trail made. So that is better. So we'll go down here, see where the ore crusher foundation is. Okay, well, this is a little bit better view right here. You can see the concrete stanchions right there. There's supports. And you might be able to detect that long yellow rail bar, safety rail bar right there. All right here. This is where the coal dock was. And this is where the boiler house was. And right over there is where the cable hoist house was. So it doesn't look too bad from here. Worse back there. But anyway, not really too much to see down there, but the coal bins are pretty neat. I might see if I can include some of those photos. So back down over there, you had a safety hall. Back over there was the commissary, the Ishkooda commissary. So you got the remains of a cross tie right here. So, you know, they just took the rails up when they closed everything down. You can still see the cross ties right here, remains of them. But the ore crusher foundation's right up here. Okay, this is looking to the southwest, what was the Birmingham Mineral Railroad bed, but this is the TCI High Line. Right down here you had the cable hoist house to Ishkooda number 13. And man, they've done a really good job. Last time I saw this, man, you could barely see that. So somebody, thankfully, has put a lot of effort into that. That really looks nice. So this is where the ore crusher foundation is. They had a gyratory ore crusher that sat up on top of that was electrically operated. And back when it was steam powered, you know, they had to run the electricity up there. And all up here is this giant wooden tipple. And when the skip cars would be pulled up by the cable hoist, it would tip over, dump the contents down a chute to the ore crusher, and there would be waiting rail cars right here. And the contents after they were crushed were put into the waiting rail cars, and they were hauled to the blast furnaces at Inslee, or Fairfield in Inslee, on this this exact rail line. So, but that's man, that's really nice, impressive. Now they've got the trail going further on down. You can take that all the way down to the 14 mine, where the ore crusher and the remains of the hoist house, and they actually had a coal dock. You can see that, but just gonna stick with the 13 mine today. But that is really impressive. I mean, my thanks to someone or some folks that cleaned all that out. That is really nice. Considering the last time I saw it, it was just, you could barely see this. So anyway, that's a long way up, man. I'm not sure how high that loading tipple was. I think I've got some specs on that. I may just out of curiosity see just how high this thing was. But all these tipples were wooden tipples, except for, I think it was in the late 40s, early 50s down at 13. That tipple was so high, I guess the wood was questionable, so they tore it all down and put a steel tipple up. But anyway, we're right down there. It's the foundation remains for the Ishkooda number 13 hoist house. Okay, so I'm gonna make my way to the top. I don't feel like walking all the way back down there, so wouldn't even do this in the summertime. But I'm just gonna make my way up to the top, to the where the tipple started, and see how it goes from there. Nice steep climb. Okay, so on top right here, this right here, you can still see the cross ties right here. This is looking down the haulage way cut. This is where your tally house was. There's a little basement down there, but there's nothing in there. You had your water tanks that sat up there, 52 of them, 50,000 gallon water tanks to hold the water being pumped up out of the mine. So you get the staircase right here, and this right here is the base right here where the wooden tipple went out up over to the ore crusher down below. So it's too bad this stuff isn't cleared off like down below, man. Of course, it takes a lot of time and effort, volunteers coming up here, I guess. But anyway, tally house, all this was when they rehabilitated or modernized the mines more. All this was new tally house, new concrete retaining walls, new stairs. So anyway, we'll make our way down towards the railroad bridge. We'll head over to where the compressor house was, and if got time, may go up to see where the electrical transformer station is. But like I said, that's a look back down the haulage way cut towards number 13 mine portal. Okay, so that's looking down the haulage way cut from the top of, now it's a walking bridge, but where the minecart rail trestle was, and that is looking up the haulage way cut towards the number 13 tally house and where the wooden tipple was. And those are the remains of the shops over there. So we're going to be, the rail line ran right along where this trail is. We're going to be going up to where the compressor house is. If I have time, I'll go up there and take a look at the, where the transformer station is. And then make my way down towards the walking trails of the old Birmingham Railroad for winding this up. Okay, that's looking back towards the bridge over the number 13 haulage way cut. Not sure what that foundation was right there, but this this was could have used it for something else, but in the early days the blacksmith shop was right here, so they could have don't have any information on what that foundation what they might have changed it to. But up there, don't have time to do this, but up there in the woods, I'll see if I can include some photos. That's where the number 13 transformer station is, back up just on the other side of the crest, and it's intact. So we'll walk down over here to the compressor house and wind it up here on top of the mountain before we head back down towards the rail bed. Okay, that's a look back down the trail right there, and you can still see the cross ties from the little rail line they had here. This went all the way to the number 14 mine. So, all right, the compressor house is just up ahead. Okay, so this is the compressor house, and its purpose was they had huge tanks in here that would hold compressed air. They sent these down in lines from this building right here. They went to the 13 and the 14 mine. The compressed air was used for pneumatic air drills and whatnot. So, very important. So, right here in front, right here, this is the continuation. It's kind of hard to tell. Got some of the flooded basement remains right there of the compressor house, filled up with a lot of water. So this right here is the continuation of the old Birmingham and Old Railroad. Looking back, this is the number 13 mine back this way. And of course, later this was turned into the High Line, and straight ahead on this trail would be the 14 mine ore crusher foundations, the foundations remains of the coal dock, the coal bins, and the hoist house down there, 14. But this is, like I said, this was a huge building, and it just ran compressed air down into the 13 and 14 mines. So, yeah. So, anyway, that'll kind of do it for the surface. Checking out the old Ishkooda number 13 mine surface facilities, the remains. And we'll make our way down towards the rail bed. And before we wind up, check out some of the rail bed remains of the old narrow gauge railroad remains. They went to the Oxmoor Furnace, which you can still see up here in the park. So, all right, we'll just head on back down the mountain. Okay, just a little side note. This is the walking trail where the minecart railroad was, but all of this right here, these cuts, this is the result of open ore mining going back to even the times of the Civil War, because they were actually excavating ore on the top of this mountain during the Civil War for the Oxmoor Furnace, for the Tannehill Furnace down south. So when the mines were started back up again, they continued doing the open ore mining before they went to drift mining. This was the cheapest method of mining, was open ore mining. Didn't hardly take any equipment, just brute force labor. But you can see how much they cut out and how much the top of the mountain is gone. And it's this way all the way along Red Mountain. This is a pretty big cut. I'm sure they widened it for their facilities here, but there's open ore cuts going all the way down past Bessemer. So that's how much they took off the top of this mountain. So, okay, we'll continue on down to the rail beds. Okay, so this is looking back up towards the number 13 mine portal right here. To the left, just past that berm, is the rail bed cut that the Birmingham Railroad built going into the 13 mine back when it was a Eureka number 2 slope mine. This right here is the original narrow gauge tramway bed or rail bed that led out of the Eureka mine number 13, and it's a walking trail, and this went straight on down to a Y section, joined up with the other narrow gauge rail lines that were coming from the other Eureka mines, and it traveled 2.5 miles south towards the Oxmoor Furnace. So just up ahead here, I'll video it. the Birmingham Mineral Railroad had built a trestle, a wooden trestle. There's no remains of it. You can see the berms that went over this rail bed because it was still in operation. Even after they had built, the Birmingham Mineral Railroad had built their South Branch in 1886. This was still in operation, taking ore to the Oxmoor Furnace. Okay, so right here is one of the rail berms here. And right here, this is where the Birmingham Mineral Railroad had a wooden trestle going across that was headed to the number 14 mine and the McElwain mine, which became later Ishkooda 15. So there was a wooden trestle right here, and the narrow gauge railroad went straight down this way, where it joined up, like I said, with the other rail lines coming out of the other Eureka mines before it went to Oxmoor Furnace. Okay, this is looking back to the northwest. The narrow gauge railroad from the Eureka mines heading towards the Oxmoor Furnace. The remains of where the trestle was for the Birmingham Mineral Railroad is probably 150 yards back that way. And you've got your rail bed cut right here. And this would go straight towards what they called a Y, where the other rail lines joined up. And just right in there is the remains of the South Branch, the main South Branch line of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. So, not much left. A lot of serious overgrowth. Wouldn't want to do this in the summertime, but anyway, get back down on the South Branch and film a little bit more. Okay, this is on the South Branch of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. Rail bed remains. Right up there is where the narrow gauge railroad from the Eureka mines crossed the Birmingham Mineral. I believe they might have had a trestle there, but I'd have to check. But anyway, there was the Y for that railroad was just down over here. And then it ran all the way south down to the Oxmoor Furnace. But this branch hooked up with the main line of L&N, crossed L&N and went up, I believe, the Walker's Gap, where Green Springs Highway is today. But this line at one time ran all the way down to Bessemer, curved around Highway 150, continued around to the north side of the mountain. So actually joined up where I was earlier. But anyway, very well preserved. And you've got one of the original stone culverts down there. May go down there and take a picture or video it. But anyway, it's a beautifully preserved section of the South Branch here at Red Mountain Park. So that'll kind of finish it up for the little walking tour of the Ishkooda number 13 mine site. And like I said, that's one of the original stone trestles built between, or stone culverts built between 1885 and 1886. And there's plenty of them along the trail. So we'll just go ahead and conclude this. And that's looking back to the southwest. And anyway, good early morning field trip out here to the old mine site of Ishkooda number 13.